Thanks, Pete.
Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Theorycrafting Thursdays. I am, of course, your host, Arsinity, and I'm sitting here alongside, despite being on opposite coasts, with my good buddy, Proud.
Yo.
And today we are doing a very special Thanksgiving episode. Whether you're listening to this on Thanksgiving or not, this is the day it comes out, so, of course, I'm going to make it a little special. But before we even talk about that, Proud, how's your last week or so in Dota been?
It's not been bad. My games went pretty well last week. I played one of the weaker teams in my college division, so that was good. That was nice. Good win. Played some SCS, whatever that weekly tournament thing is these days, with a bunch of 5Ks, and didn't play the best support of my life, but I had some good times. So it's been pretty good. Made it up to 5.6K, so that's nice. Or 4.6. Holy shit! Sorry.
I was gonna say that.
4.6.
Sounds like the best week in Dota ever.
Yeah, not quite.
Yeah, I always like playing games with people notably better than I am because it forces you to either realize your actual skill level or it forces you to like observe other people. Yeah, but maybe that's another topic for a podcast. And that's always a good time.
Would recommend not having your first outing on a Dazzle amongst a chorus of 5K players.
Yeah, it definitely
Probably not the best play I've made.
Yeah, it definitely, there are certain intricacies to playing outside of your comfort zone or outside of your like skill level, whether it's playing super like far below it or far above it. There's like a weird out of game metagame that applies, even in unranked because things are bracketed. But yeah, my week has been fine. I have not played much. I've been hitting the books real hard, but Dota is Dota, so it's never too bad. Unless you're losing, then it's miserable for like 40 minutes, and then you recover. But yeah, all right. So keeping with the theme this week, as I'm sure you guys heard over the course of the Monday episode, the Tuesday episode, the Wednesday episode, we're talking about, of course, American Thanksgiving. We're discussing what we're thankful for in Dota. If you're Canadian, I'm sorry, but just to hop on the bandwagon, be thankful. You guys are pretty nice, so
I think it was like a month early. They're okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were thankful earlier, and now they're thankful now. I suppose, I don't know. Canadians are so pleasant. Like, it's fine. Americans, we're so jaded. We need a specific day to be thankful. The rest of the year,
everyone needs to know about it.
Yeah. You got to publicly announce what you're thankful for. So, in that fashion, I will publicly announce what I'm thankful for in Dota. And the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, the topic of pretty much every episode of this show. Let's be honest. I'm thankful for my boy Carl and the slightly inadequate buffs that were given to him in this past patch. They've been my Twitter banner since they were announced. And hopefully in 6.86, he'll be further buffed, because right now he's like a really, I don't know. We see him in pros every once in a while, and in pub games he's okay, but
it's fringe pick at best.
Fringe pick for sure. Exort is quite weak. You almost never see him played Exort, and like I do it sometimes just because it's fun. Like anybody that plays Invoker knows, like Questwex is generally the better build, but Exort is just more fun for some people and certain games. But yeah, so I'm pretty thankful for him. I mean, like, you gotta be thankful for your favorite hero, right?
No.
While I think of other things I may or may not be thankful for, what are you thankful for, Proud? What's your
I'm gonna go pretty similarly and go with my boy Lundred.
Keeping with the theme of the show, Carl.
Yeah.
What is it? Carl and Scylla in the morning.
I wouldn't say I'm so much thankful of his last buffs, because his last buffs were just the previous buffs, but then they did it again, and they were similarly kind of ineffectual. New play styles kind of opened up, but it's still a shit hero, let's be honest. But I'm thankful that a patch is coming soon. And
December.
As we've learned from Juggernaut and other, Lash and Lena and heroes like that, heroes that keep getting buffed, eventually there's going to be one patch where he's just like, you don't want to pick it? Fuck it, we'll go all out. And then they'll just get like crazy ass buffs. So maybe this is my patch where like they also change the bearer's damage to hero type and give him another 30 damage at level 1 and give me magic immunity at all times. Who knows? Let's stream.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Ice Frog will misclick a few buttons, accidentally give you permanent BKB.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? The other thing I'm super thankful for is my boy Juggernaut. The fact that the meta build now is to go Battle Fury on him, I don't really care whether or not that's like good, which it is, by the way. Like the build is sick good right now. But like the fact that I can play Juggernaut and be a pubby piece of shit and just like get a Battle Fury at like 17 minutes like a fucking asshole is fantastic. Like, oh my god, I get to do this like crazy ass like comfort thing, and like I'm in a team fight and I don't need to look for an Omni Slash. I just click it and then it happens and everyone dies. Like, oh my god, it's so much easier. It's so much like I just pick Juggernaut, get a Battle Fury. It's so fucking easy.
Yeah, I can't echo that because I don't play Juggernaut, but I've enjoyed the build on my teammates. Battle Fury rushing, I don't know. It always used to strike me as like a dumb thing, but then I don't know. Now people do it and it's awesome. So I mean, maybe I was just wrong before, or maybe they
Yeah.
changed it enough that now it's good. Um,
Yeah, there are some differences. Quelling Blade changed, maybe made him farm a little less fast, different ways to engage. I don't know. Something changed a little bit, but it's definitely more viable now than it was before. No debates about that.
yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, because the other Battle Fury heroes you think of are generally the heroes that get Battle Fury to farm fast, whereas Jug, it doesn't like it speeds up his farming, of course, because I mean it speeds up farming on anybody. That's melee, I suppose. Make that stipulation. But I don't know. He doesn't have like the flash farming of like a PA or
Yeah,
anti mage, but I mean
he
he does
farmed pretty quick
benefit
though.
from ult. He does farm quick, and I mean when you go like phase mom or even just phase, it definitely speeds stuff up.
Yeah,
Let's see. My second thing I'm thankful for would be, and I suppose these are all going to end up being heroes. Maybe if I had planned a little more, we'd have something diverse. But my second thing I'm particularly thankful for has been a very recent addition to my suite of heroes. I've been playing a ton of support Kunkka, and that guy is so fun. I would say my boy and then his name, but I mean his name is Kunkka, but that's
yeah. It's
less interesting than my boy Carl. Because anyway, but so I'm very happy about support Kunkka. I'm having a ton of fun with it. I can honestly say it is one of the most fun times I've had in Dota playing that build because it's like little unorthodox and it lets you roam and people don't expect it. And like landing a good torrent or X marks torrent boat combo is like endless satisfaction. I just threw a paperclip across my room, but that's fine. Um, so that's
should we cancel the show or?
we should. We probably should. I might have like a power outage. Might have stuck in a light switch, and I may die. So this will be my dying words, and my dying words would be, "God
Okay,
bless
yeah.
support Kunkka."
Okay, I can dig it. That's legit.
There probably been worse last words. Let's be honest. Um, Maybe like I don't know. About to get that dark. All right, but support Kunkka is super fun. I will say it is not easy. It's definitely requires like a good few games to get used to. Even if you're a Kunkka player, like a mid Kunkka player, it definitely is a weird playstyle and
Yeah,
takes some adaptation. But it is just super fun. And like I've been just playing solo unranked, and like even if it's a miserable game, I just have a good time. Like landing X marks the spot with torrent. Like it,
sure.
I'm a simple man. I just want to land my combos, whether we lose or not. As long as I'm playing well and I have cool cosmetics. So I mean that makes everything better. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I would call Kunkka a crowd pleaser. It's just that he's never in front of crowds, so he's more like a Jiffy Cat pleaser when he, gets pretty high on the Reddit page or something when attackers playing him. So he's definitely cool to watch.
yeah, I was surprised. I guess not surprised. But I was happy that so on Reddit there was of course a thread like what do you want to see in 6.86, and one of the or many of the prevailing comments were I want to see Kunkka. Like I want to see him in pros and I want to see him in pubs, and I just want to see him in general. Like he's really interesting hero. He's super fun, and he's dynamic, and he's interesting to watch.
Yeah,
We very rarely see him. Like I know. Let's see. I'm trying to think. The last time I saw him in a pro game, I saw Smash, our one true Pastor, play him in a pro game because he plays for Elite Wolves right now, and that was really
yeah,
interesting. He played him as a mid, and I know Chuan used to play him as a roaming support. But
yeah. I
that
feel
was
like that's like a DK thing as well.
yeah. I mean, Chuan plays a lot of weird stuff. He plays Enchantress, and that's like a hero for crazy people. Let's be honest. But so Kunkka definitely, I feel like he definitely, I feel like he's viable. You just have to be consistent with him. But I also feel like other supports do what he does just better. But
More
X marks the
viable,
spot.
yeah.
Yeah, and also he's really weak until like level 3. That's the big thing. It's like Omni Knight. Like Omni Knight's a good hero, but he loses lane, and so like people just don't pick him. And also, I mean,
Yeah.
Diffusal Blade is a good item.
I feel like the kind of trend of more like dual lanes and more lane swapping around, like Secret every game they run their tri lane kind of off lane, or they run Envy off lane and give Misery, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I feel like the fact that like Spirit Breaker and Undying are like standard 4 positions at this point. I feel like Kunkka may find his way with a couple buffs, just being a 4 in some kind of team.
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I can't think of like a big buff that would make him viable without making him broken. People have proposed some like Aghanims upgrades, but I don't think that really answers the problem of the hero. I think if they maybe gave him, I mean, the classic Ice Frog buff, right, is like +5 movement speed, but maybe if they gave him either a little movement speed so that you could get in range for X marks more easily, or if they gave him maybe a little better int scaling. I think there's like
Yeah.
I think he really, like you said, I think he just needs like a small change, and when that comes, I'll be very thankful for that. um, I
Yeah, some little things like that, and I think if Tidebringer was like good at level 1, like if they made Tidebringer a lot better at level 1, so he worked with like less levels, then he could be pretty decent. Like a
or
little
if
bit of move speed, a little bit of mana, and Tidebringer strong level 1, so he could fight in like zoning battles and shit.
Yeah, it's interesting because Tidebringer is one of those abilities I feel like when you're playing against it, you're like, wow, this is so annoying. I am like, what a broken ability. I get harassed every
Yeah,
6 seconds. But when you're playing it, you're like, boy, this just makes the guy low so that he's defensive and I can't kill him. And it's
yeah,
like, oh, I mean,
yeah. I
he's
can
very
see
like
it.
level starved, right? So a lot of times you'll see people, they either have to pick one. They either pick the Tidebringer build with like 1 point torrent and then points in X, or they go like all Tidebringer X, or rather all Tidebringer torrent, or people just go straight down like the fighty pick off support build. Some people do it mid too, where you just go X and torrent. So I think he's really dynamic. I think he's super fun, and I mean I'm a fan of any hero that like is unexpected. When somebody has an off the wall pick and it's like, wow, that's really cool. Also, I mean, it is flashy, right? When you land a big boat, people are like, boy, that guy, what a player.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think those are my two big things I'm thankful for. Nothing else jumps to mind off the top of my head. I mean, I'm just thankful for this patch, honestly. Like, even though I'm very excited for 6.86 in December, this patch has just been super fun. Like, I mean, I've been winning a lot, so that does help the patch. But it's just like dynamic. I feel like almost every hero is viable, or at least like pickable. Where like I don't feel like in 6.83, um, I would feel bad when I picked Invoker because I'm like, or 6.84 also. But if I picked Invoker, I was like, I'm gonna have a good time, but I know in my heart of hearts, if I picked a different mid, I would be doing better, and I would be accomplishing more for a team. And I hate that feeling. And
Yeah,
I had that with Druid before, where it's
I
like,
think that may kind of come down to the positions that we play. Because as a safe laner, I feel like almost nothing is viable. There's like 3 carries that you can play this patch, and then the rest are like they're okay. Like you can
I
play
guess,
Medusa. You can play Medusa. You can play. I don't know. You could play Troll Warlord if you wanted to. It's just like, man, there's probably 3 picks that are meta. That means that hero is gonna have a hard ass game.
that's very true. I
So
didn't think of that, but now
I'm,
that you
I'm
mentioned
kind
it,
of I'm kind of at a mix. I like this patch because I can play Juggernaut. I like this patch because Lone Druid isn't the worst thing ever. But at
Spectre.
the same time, I can't play PA. It's just a lot of heroes that I want to be able to play. But that's been every patch for a while. It's really hard to be to play carry for the last
Yeah.
couple patches.
Yeah, I kind of agree now that you mentioned that. I think, I mostly play support in my solo queue games, and then I play mids generally. I mean, I play a lot of stuff. I don't know. Altogether, I think we both agree that the patch is good, but I will definitely agree that when it comes down to carries are probably the most limited role right now, compared
One
to
thing,
mids
one
and
thing I've noticed is that like the mids are super cool. Like most of the pro games you see, they end up just running like a mid in their safe lane and a mid in their mid, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
basically.
Ember Spirit's a really good safe laner right now, which kind of leads into some other stuff. But
Yeah. Even Tinker
yeah,
safe
that kind of
lane.
thing. Yeah, yeah,
Although people don't do that in pros, but in pubs, trust me, Tinker safe lane is awesome. Although I mean he's still an okay mid. Wind Ranger safe lane stuff like that. Quap. Yeah, I
sure.
mean it's like you said, pretty much every mid is viable in the safe lane, and it lets you run aggro stuff and roam a lot. But so keeping with Ember Spirit, one thing, or not one thing, two things we will be running this week for our lane combo of the week. We will be running Ember Spirit with Winter Wyvern, and I really like this combo. I play a ton of Winter Wyvern. I would, I think I and many people would agree with me, would say that, boy, that was terrible English. Winter Wyvern is awesome. She's really strong right now. She's a top tier pick. I feel like you can pick her almost always. I mean, AA is pretty good against her, but other than that, like she's great against Wind Ranger, which is a top tier pick right now. She offers a lot to the lane. She doesn't need a ton of levels. She doesn't need a ton of items. She can fight almost constantly. She's awesome. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, she's solid. No debates about that. She's got the heal. She can zone super well. Her Q is like so deceptively strong. She like you get the
Oh
debuff on,
yeah,
you're like, okay, here's the debuff, and then you get like eat 3 more auto attacks, and like that's like 100, 150 damage. You know, it's
easily.
nothing to scoff at. And then you add the debuff onto that. You know, 3 autos and 150. That's crazy. Um, yeah, so she's super good. She has a team fight ult. She's solid. She's got a nice AOE nuke that you can like know how to play around. It's very strong.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
big
and
fan.
definitely good. I'm definitely a pretty big fan of Ember Spirit. I'm certainly not the best Ember Spirit player. No debates about that. But I am one of the better or one of the bigger Ember Spirit enthusiasts. So that hopefully that counts for something.
It balances
Uh,
each other out.
yeah, I feel like I'm okay at Ember Spirit, but I am super shit at mid. That's something that I've been learning playing mid for my team. Is I'm actually just a shit mid. Not good at that. That's something that I'm really bad at. So trying to work on that. But Ember Spirit being able to be played in the safe lane now is a nice remedy to that issue.
Yeah, I mean, Winter Wyvern Ember Spirit is actually like not the worst dual lane mid. I mean, nowadays we used to never see dual lane mids, but nowadays we pretty often in pros and even in pubs we see support picks that rotate a lot, but tend to just sit around in mid and like secure farm, or they'll like come to mid just to win the first wave. Uh,
Yeah,
Granted, I mean that I assume that's not where we're gonna run this unless like some really weird
probably not.
things happen. But that is something to think about. That's something personally I really don't like as a kind of mid player myself. I really hate the meta of like heavy rotations to mid, dual lane mids, because like the fun of mid, at least for me, is I like the one-on-one aspect where it's
Sure.
like it's just purely like skill based, like just you and the other person, and you have to account for what they're doing, they have to account for what you're doing, and you just have to outplay them. But now that like there's so many other elements involved, it really like it saps a lot of the fun out of mid for me. Because I mean, it's no fun. Like if you're better than the other person, you should be winning mid. But if they have a Bane rotate and sap all your damage, and gosh, that's so annoying. That hero is really good. If I played
Yeah.
more Bane, I would be thankful for Bane. But I only play him when I'm really desperate for a win.
Yeah, the new Bane tech is strong to be sure.
He is wild. Um, but yeah, so I mean, this lane, I feel like is a lane you can actually like see pretty consistently, whereas like some of the other lanes we've done are a little more like off the wall, or a little less common. But these are two heroes that are really like firmly rooted in the meta, and unless they get really big nerfs next patch, I don't imagine you'll see either of them leave the meta. Winter Wyvern is definitely a hero that like so. When I was talking about Kunkka about having a lot of different builds, Winter Wyvern also has some different builds, which is something that always draws me to a hero. So Winter Wyvern, what a lot of people will do is they almost always people skill Q first with her because her Q, which is Arctic Burn, it gives you so much rune fight. It's actually obscene and so much escape potential
Yeah.
and slow. It's just like
It's crazy good.
I would say it's one of the best level 1 abilities in the game.
No debates there. Yeah,
Um,
that and Icy Touch or whatever, AA's ability. Those two
yeah.
I feel like are pretty up there for level 1 fighting.
Yeah, definitely. Icy Touch may be better, but that skill is just ridiculous at level 1.
Yeah.
But so the divergence in builds that I was talking about comes where some people prioritize Arctic Burn, other people prioritize Splinter Blast, which is her like AoE nuke that comes off of one unit, and then other people like myself kind of level them equally. So that's definitely where I think different builds for different games applies. And people always you just get 1 point in Cold Embrace and you leave it until you have to level it until Q and W are maxed.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't change in length and it's like a negligible difference. in
Yeah, the
cooldown
heal gets better,
max
but
regen.
whatever.
Yeah, it's not like the hugest deal either.
Definitely not as good as having your Q up every like 20 seconds or whatever it becomes.
Yeah, so that's really the trade-off with Wyvern, and that's why I don't want to lock myself into a build necessarily for our upcoming game, because her Q in certain lanes is super lane dominant, whereas in other times, if I'm having like a really good game, I'm gonna get like early mana boots, let's say, then her W is higher on my priority list because the big limitation with W leveling I find, and I see when other people are playing Winter Wyvern and when I play Winter Wyvern, is that her mana pool is not excellent, and so
Yeah,
your W is kind of what's the word, like de-incentivized because you can't spam it like you want to until you have like mana boots, and really you can do it with just mana boots. But whereas Q you can really dominate a lane with, and W is more like a team fighty pushy thing, where compared to a lane dominance thing. Also, I mean you can dodge the W if you're like if I'm trying to zone an offlaner, it's not gonna be very effective if I zone him with a W and kill our whole creep wave. But if I zone him with a Q, I just walk over and he takes 400 damage. So that's definitely my plan. And Winter Wyvern also, item wise, I just build mobility on her. I mean, I feel like mobility is the key to winning Dota. I think most people would agree with me. It's Dota's really a game of like mobility and information and efficiency. I guess if you want to pick
yeah.
three.
Blink or Force Staff are both super good on her. But then there's also the Glimmer Cape, which synergizes with Cold Embrace is like
Yeah,
a shallow grave where someone's I don't know. It's crazy good.
yeah. I don't go Glimmer Cape as much as some other people. Not because I don't think the item is awesome. It's just like I don't know. I build it in certain games, but
Maybe
you'll see like other people build it like every game,
yeah.
and like they'll build it even just like for the invis.
Do you
Whereas
do
I
you get
talk to
Glimmer
builders.
Cape often, like in general, or do you think it's kind of just taking you some time to kind of get used to the new items, or
I think it's a combination. I build it like a decent amount on supports, but the thing is, I build it as like a situational pickup against magic damage. Whereas I see a lot of other supports will just buy it like every game, and they use it more for utility of the invis compared
sure?
to thinking like, oh well, they have a bunch of magic damage I need to prevent. So I think there's kind of like maybe some people are like overly pick it up, I guess, but I mean it works both ways, right? Like it's very disorienting when somebody just is suddenly invis when while you're killing them. It's very like it's a really strong item. I probably don't pick it up as much as I should, but I play a ton of Winter Wyvern like I said, and I almost always just go straight mobility. I go like either Tranquil Boots, Soul Ring, or I go Mana Boots, and then I'll just get like Force Staff, Blink Dagger, or Blink Dagger, Force Staff, depending on how good the farm is.
Okay.
I mean, she doesn't really require items to be strong either.
Yeah.
So I've had plenty of games where I just have like mana boots, wand, and TPs and wards, and then after a couple team fights, I just buy a blink dagger because it's not like you need stats. Like she has pretty good stat growth. All her skills are good, and you have mana. You have enough mana with mana boots or with the soul ring to be like constantly relevant. So she's not one of these support that needs a ton of stuff. Yule's is quite good on her. Solar Crest is interesting. I don't build that as much as I used to.
Yeah,
But
when she was first coming out, I was hearing a lot of hype on you'd like Medallion, whoever you cold embrace, and then their
yeah,
teammates will do more damage and stuff. And like that's kind of cute, I guess. But you also have,
yeah,
or sorry, not cold embrace. Whoever you Winter's Curse. Yeah, but you also have cold embrace to deal with. Taking away kind of the utility of the defensive aspect of the Medallion. It's kind of can go either way.
yeah. It's a little gimmicky. I feel like maybe gimmicky is not the right word, but it's one of those things where
No,
it
I
got
agree.
really hyped at first. People were
Yeah,
like, "Oh man, it's crazy! Like you'd make them take all this extra damage," but in reality,
yeah.
it's like Winter's Curse does not last that long, and
And who are
like
you like? Who are you cursing that their physical damage is going to kill them? Like, if they have a Juggernaut and another Shadow Fiend on their team, and then you like curse,
this,
Crystal
yeah,
Maiden,
yeah,
and then they kill the Crystal Maiden, you're like, oh, good job.
yeah.
Now their two cores are going to kill me. That or my team fight ult is down.
Yeah, it's pretty decisively generally. Also, I mean, a lot of times people just use it for the disable that pierces BKB. I
Yeah,
think
that's
like
that's another huge aspect of it.
it's honestly a really like ridiculous ability. Like people, the thing I've heard from casters, and other like people that are good at Dota, which I guess those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, is that it's basically just a ranged like black hole or a ranged RP. It is
Yeah,
also like the best counter to RP, and it just honestly it's a pretty overpowered ability. Just like because you can do it from so far away, and it provides so much utility that other abilities that are hard to hit land. So I feel like I don't know. It's a little ridiculous. Like Winter Wyvern Darkseer is really strong right
sure.
now because like the obvious synergy is like vacuum into Wyvern ult into wall, and a similar synergy would be like Darkseer Enigma or Darkseer and a Magnus, and Wyvern just gives you all that and more.
Yeah, it seems a lot easier to pull off, and you can kind of. She's a lot less greedy a hero than those. Normally, you have to give up a lot to have a huge team fight ultimate, but she has three other extremely viable skills and a team fight ulti.
Yeah,
I definitely wouldn't be too surprised to see her get a bit of a nerf last patch,
she
being
did
that.
last patch. Field
Sorry,
five.
not last patch. It would be weird to be surprised about something that's already happened. I mean, in the coming patch mid December, which is
I would
totally
expect.
happening, by the way.
Yep, mid December. I would expect a nerf, honestly. I don't think it needs to be a big one, but I think maybe like if you nerf the range she can cast her ult at. I mean, they already nerfed her ult.
Yeah, their last nerf or ult nerf is pretty bad.
It was pretty big, but I feel like the utility is still crazy.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like she's like on the cusp of being balanced, but I feel like she's a little stronger than other supports right now.
Yeah.
I
One thing
think
about her skill wise that I really do like is I'm one of those guys who mostly maxes Splinter Blast, and part of that is that once you get it to level 4, you one shot range creeps.
yes,
And like yeah, just getting Splinter Blast to level 4 like helps you farm that much faster, that your XP comes faster, your items come faster,
Mhm.
and then the Arctic Burn levels come in. So I feel like it's kind of even if Arctic Burn is like better, the Splinter Blast is kind of like an investment play.
yeah. So my what I generally do is at level 5 I go 2-2-1, and then I just max Splinter Blast. I
Okay.
find that having 2 points Arctic Burn is a big difference from 1 point. Even though like the scaling is consistent,
Yeah, I can see that.
it's just like 50 seconds is really long, and 40 seconds feels really not that long, right? Like
And the
I
extra 100 range feels more impactful, like the lower your numbers are. That makes sense.
yeah. So and also like Splinter Blast gets progressively more expensive. So at level 5, if you have level 3 Splinter Blast, that's an extra 10 mana that you're going to be using regularly. Whereas Arctic Burn gets cheaper, and I don't know. I think like in certain games, maxing Arctic Burn is fine, but generally, I go like 2-2-1, and then I just max Splinter Blast because by the point that I would be having max Splinter Blast, I should almost always have like Mana Boots or like I said, Tranquil Boots Soul Ring. But yeah, so maybe we could just talk about Ember before we jump into the game.
Works for me.
I mean, the hero's really strong right now, and he offers a lot to a team. You kind of mentioned that he used to be running the mid role because he's pretty level hungry, but nowadays he's run often in the safe lane role as well.
Yeah, it's they still run him. They still run him mid. They still run him. They definitely still do that. But yeah, safe lane he's been picked up a lot more. Kind of there's been a bit of a vacuum in viable carries, and also the viable mids are a lot more scale. So they scale a lot better. And Envy is just like an absurd monster on this hero. So a lot of him getting picked is a deny pick from Secret or Secret picking it and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, he's been super popular in the pubs I've been playing. He has a couple different play styles, and he's kind of unique in that his playstyle changes through the game. He starts out pretty fighty, pretty in your face if you go like the drums kind of build.
Lots of
But then
magic damage.
yeah, yeah, he does a lot of magic damage, and then he like transitions into like being in the back and it's doing all your slights and like doing a lot of cleave damage and stuff. So it's cool to have a hero that kind of transforms his role as the game goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I like the hero. I play a good bit of Ember Spirit, and I think it's really interesting and dynamic to have a hero that transitions from someone that is, like you said, fighty and with a ton of magic damage in the early game when you have like when you have level 4 bolus and level 4 shield, and then like a triple remnant. That's a ton of magic damage. But then as he scales into the late game, he progresses into like not necessarily the physical damage carry you think of. Like he's not like a PA or something,
Yeah.
but he does do like the physical damage and he scales. You know, when when you're Eternal Envy and you buy like two rapiers or some crazy stuff like that. Like it's a very interesting way of scaling. Whereas other heroes I think are much more linear and they're just like, all right, I do physical damage. As I get items, I do more physical damage.
Yeah, for
Whereas
sure.
Ember has like peaks and valleys, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it is. And the worst thing is when you think that you're still on a peak, but it turns out you're at the bottom of a valley and you're, remnanting and bowling and flame shielding into five people turns into you getting instantly killed. Then you're like, wait a sec, I need to be at far away spamming Slate of Fist mode right now.
Yeah, it's very easy to like suddenly be out of remnants, or if you do some like triple remnant in to like commit, and then sometimes that stuff does not go so well. Um,
Mistakes are very apparent when you are playing this hero. There's
yeah,
no debates there.
he has very weak mana pool too. I know that's like a problem I have, and that's a good reason why people get drums on him often. Whereas other heroes either have more, like when you use a full combo with him, it takes almost his whole mana pool, unless like you have
Yeah.
drums or if you went treads and you have into treads or something. So there's not a lot of wiggle room, and of course, like most people go bottle, so you can sustain stuff, but
The bottle bots so
that
meta right
definitely
now.
makes it easy to mess up. Definitely easy to mess up. Yeah, bots are big on him, so he can keep rotating, rotating, rotating. Um,
But that is that's like such a huge investment for your like if you play mid, that's crazy because then you need like you need your safe laner to cover for your mid in like the early mid game, which is not common, especially if your off laner doesn't have the perfect game.
yeah,
So yeah, bots is I've seen a lot of people go bots. Like I was playing Alchemist mid and our safe lane Ember Spirit went bots, and I was like, okay, like what do you think is gonna happen at 10 minutes? Like which of
yeah,
us do you think is gonna be playing this game?
yeah. I think he's also a hero that really fits this current meta. Whether he goes bots or not, like he just has the ability to fight a lot, and
Yeah,
that's who you're seeing flourish in this meta. You're seeing heroes like Slardar or Tusk that can just like run at people, and they can just fight, and they can fight, and then 10 seconds later they can fight again. Whereas heroes like Faceless Void is a character that comes to mind. Faceless Void is never picked because his ult has such a long cooldown, and you have to commit 4,200 gold into an Aghanim Scepter to be relevant because otherwise, like you ult, and then the other team just pushes you while your ult is down. So Ember Spirit, conversely, he fits the meta really well because he's just like, all right, I'm always up, I'm always ready to go, unless of course you waste all your remnants or something crazy like that, or if you get mana drained, which sucks. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the gist of it. So we're gonna run this in a duo queue ranked game. Do we have any closing notes, or do we just want to hop right into it?
I'd like to say the one thing about Ember Spirit is you do need to kind of decide if you want to go the Aki Boots of Travel or some kind of drums power treads is the kind of thing right now. Phase boots are pretty phased out, which I kind of that's a
Oh
great
boy.
joke. But I think that's correct. Honestly, I really like the treads drums on them. You need the move speed if you're not going for bots. Yeah, I think that's good, and then you just kind of take that into the battle fear and all that sort of thing. So I think that's probably what we'll run if we're dual off laning or safe laning and we don't have a super conservative mid. But we'll see. I like kind of being able to be in the middle of a big fight on Ember Spirit, so I think drums power treads is probably my way to go.
Yeah, and I think like not to drag on, but we definitely like the synergy is nothing like complicated. It's very simple. It's just I slow them, you run in bolus. Late game, I offer a lot of team fight. I group people up so that you can be cleaving them with Battle Fury. And of course, I mean we have the kind of Thanksgiving thing of you are fire and I'm a bird. So do with that information what you will. We were thinking of running a Phoenix combo, but let's be honest, that hero is miserable. I'm sorry to any Phoenix pickers listening, but good lord, I hate that hero.
To be fair, Phoenix Winter Wyvern is pretty legit, just not laning together.
Yeah, and gosh, Phoenix. That eventually we will have to run that hero because we are trying to work through all the heroes, but that'll be a day I complain a lot. Let's put it that way. He's one of the very, very select few heroes that I only have like maybe 5 games on him. God, all right, that's a tangent we don't need to go on. So
Yeah, really.
we are going to jump right into the game. Of course, you can watch the game on .ptv1, and that's the plan. So join us after the interlude, and yeah. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Theorycrafting Thursday. We have just played our game. Generally, we would say for better or worse, but I think this time it was decidedly worse. Proud you would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was demoralizing. It was not our best game. I say our, but it was calling it a game is
It was. I mean,
generous.
it wasn't. It wasn't too bad. It didn't work out.
It felt a lot worse than it was because of our teammates. Let's put it that way.
It felt really good for like
3 minutes. That's what I would give it.
maybe
Maybe a little
minutes
more.
throughout the game accumulated. I don't know because there was so. I mean, our lane didn't go great, to say the least. But our mid lane went well, and it looked like our lane was kind of sacrificed, but it was for the greater good.
Yeah, we did
Um,
okay. Like we traded.
Yeah, we traded. I had pretty equivalent farm to their Night Stalker, who was bullying super hard.
Yeah,
Um,
he was the game winner for the enemy team. That's for sure.
yeah, and the Doom, I'm really not sure what he was doing that game. Like, I looked at him, he has like 14 last hits at 10 minutes, but like, what? I don't know.
But
It
I
was
mean, at
weird.
the end of the day, he's still Doom. So
Yeah, I just don't know where he was. I guess he was just hanging out in a jungle. It was super
yeah, he
weird.
was taking creeps from our jungle and roaming around, and then he had 6, and then they won everything because they just
Yeah.
hit Doom, and that hero is dumb, and I hate it.
Well, the Doom was like I don't know, like all the things that were happening, whatever. But they had like the real crux was just our off lane against
Yeah,
their
against their
safe lane.
5300.
Yeah, their 5300 Juggernaut against an Exort off lane Invoker. Not a good matchup, especially when there's a Disruptor also in that mix.
Yeah, boy, and then that guy who has a lovely name that I will not repeat. He's a special guy. Yeah. So I offlane Invoker quite a bit, and I can tell you that it's not that bad if they run like a weak duo lane, or just a duo lane in general. It's perfectly viable, but you have to go crosswex. It's basically impossible, or at least it's super suboptimal to offlane solo lane an Invoker and play Exort, because you just get bullied because you can't you can't trade effectively. And this guy did that, and the Juggernaut basically free farmed. He had like 13-minute phase Battle Fury, and it was just absolutely terrible. And of course, in typical Dota fashion, the guy that like fed away tons of money and did the worst on the team, I would say, was the guy who flamed the entire time. But yeah, so I guess just to go over the team comps real quick, in case you did not watch the VOD, it was for the Radiant team. There was Doom, Juggernaut, Shadow Fiend, Night Stalker, Disruptor. Then our team, it was obviously Winter Wyvern, Ember Spirit, Wind Ranger, mid, Invoker, offlane, and then a roaming Bounty Hunter, who was mostly mid. And boy, yeah, it was just one of those demoralizing games where like it only lasted like 30 minutes, and it was a hard loss, and unfortunately it was only 21 points, so
The MMR was pretty lopsided, to be sure.
oh yeah, it was not
It
only was
was.
it lopsided, but the 5300 guy was in party, like his party was what was relative,
It was
and his
it
party
was
was
probably
even
like
lower.
4-2 or something. Like, yeah, he was a 5.4K player, and his party rating was probably like 4-2 because there was a 4-3 player who was their highest, and I was like,
Yeah.
this guy's a solo rating of 5.3K, and their highest rated player is there's a difference here.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable. Yeah, and then on top of that, yeah, 21 points means that they were well above us. So you got to think like I don't know, and it was just bad. And I don't know if you run into this as much as I do, but I feel like in the mid 4K parties, I run into like the majority of people I run into mid 4K party are like 5Ks that just don't care about party rating.
Yeah,
I
that's
find that
definitely true.
super super often, and it is brutal sometimes just because I don't know. Even if it's like a duo queue or a two stack, and then they're because the way that solo queue works is that like you can be solo queued with a duo queue. So like this game, for instance, each team had a two stack, and in their case it was their Juggernaut and their Doom, I believe, and then in our case, of course, it was us. and then the rest of the people were all solo. And so having somebody that's like 5,300, but his party is 40, like let's just say hypothetically 4,200, put into a game with like a 4,300 average, it really messes stuff up. And I just find that all the time in duo queue, or just
Yeah,
in
it's
party ranks.
not exactly uncommon.
Yeah, but so I mean that's like that's just the gripes of someone that just lost MMR. But I definitely have I don't know. I like it's an imperfect system inherently, and like there's no real way to make it perfect, and like there's always going to be problems like this when you have two different ratings. But it does suck like when you play up against it. Like that's really the crux of it. Is like sometimes you just have a bad game, and other times it's just when you're put against people that are you know notably better than you, quantifiably better than you. It makes a bad game worse. I suppose that's the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's that compounded with the the pre-existing MMR difference of the 21, the getting 21 ratings. So there was a difference there. So whatever.
I mean, it is what it is.
You get bad people who want to solo offlane Invoker against a strong dual lane. No matter what happens. So
yeah, he first picked it, and boy, he was bad. No, I know this show is supposed to be about us and how we theorycrafted our lane, but I kind of want to harp on this Invoker because
I know you do.
yeah, well, I mean, if it was a lone druid player, you'd be harping. But like, not only did he do poorly in lane, and like he picked into a bad lane, and like he played the lane wrong, but then like when the fights actually commenced, he was incorrectly using all his abilities and like not landing meteors, and like it was just a mess. Like it was just
yeah, he missed like every spell. It was really sad.
Yes.
Invoker is also his most played hero, which is a little surprising. But
yeah, that makes that
yeah.
worse.
Anyway, we don't need to talk about this asshole anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, if just for our plug, if you do watch the VOD, I normally I would mute these people instantly, but for the sake of the VOD and for the sake of the experience, y'all can listen to the bounty hunter and the invoker on our team just like flame out of control. And apparently we were accused of being Peruvians, so that was interesting.
So like the one time that things went well was like. So Bounty Hunter like gank mid pretty successfully a couple times,
Yes.
and like it's Windrunner against Shadow Fiend, which is like that's great. That's a good thing to do. One thing is like when you're playing a roaming support and you're like, oh, my like safe lane is okay because I'm a roaming support. Like that doesn't really mean that you like never go to safe lane. That means like you gank safe lane and you gank mid. Because if you can if you can be roaming and gank both, that's good. So like Bounty Hunter was just kind of doing whatever. It was about to be 4 minutes, so it's like okay, it's gonna be nighttime. Night Stalker's gonna gank Bounty Hunter. Come to us. Wait for them to go on us. We're gonna get a kill. Just like sit here and wait. And then he did, and that happened, and we killed them, and it was great. And if that just like happened, like if he did that again at 6 minutes when it was still nighttime, like that game would have been like pretty. It would have been a lot more winnable of a game. We wouldn't have just traded like me getting fucked over by this like Night Stalker Doom dual offlane combo for giving Jug free farm, and it would have been more of like a mixed bag. But yeah, a bit of communication goes a long way.
Yeah, so I think we should definitely go over like the lane in particular. Is that we laned, of course, Winter Wyvern Ember Spirit in the safe lane versus Doom Night Stalker, and it was primarily Night Stalker off lane, and the Doom kind of like he roamed through our jungle. But one of the things was we really couldn't punish it that much, because we just had like our duo lane, and I feel like if we ran a trial lane against this, we could have killed Night Stalker over and over, and he wouldn't, or maybe not over and over, but we could have at least like denied him a lot of levels,
or at least let me get farm so I could like get a farm advantage and then kill him.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, but since we were kind of weak, Night Stalker he has 4 health regen. He had he rushed like boots tango, and then he had a bottle, and he just bullied us constantly. And
super early on, I almost got a huge advantage on him. Like he's just doing whatever, and he uses his Q to harass me at like level 1. So I'm like, oh, his Q is down. I can fucking flame guard him because the Queep Brave just died. So like I have my basically half, maybe 2/3 of my flame guard duration ticking on him, and he eats like 1 tango in his regens all of it, and I'm like, okay,
yep.
And he just turns around and hits retrace, and I'm fucking like worse off than he is tanking like 2/3 of flame guard at level 1.
Yeah,
pretty fucking rough.
Yeah, it was rough was the word. He ended the game 8-1 and 15. And he just did this like super tanky aggressive build, and he went treads, bottle, Vanguard, and he just ran around. He dove towers because Vanguard lets you do that, and he was just a nuisance. And they counterpicked Ember Spirit super hard. And obviously, when we like do these, like we're locked into a combo. We're not gonna like play a game and just not do the combo. So no matter how much they counter you, you just kind of got to pick it. And boy, did they counter it. Doom is super good against Ember Spirit. Doom is
For
good against
pretty
everybody.
obvious reasons.
Yeah, Night Stalker quite good against Ember Spirit because of the silence and just being able to punch you and trade. Disruptor very good against Ember Spirit, and Shadow Fiend and Jug are not particularly good against Ember Spirit. But those,
No, I do well against Jug. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah.
Shadow Fiend is kind of mixed bag, but yeah, those three picks, like, you cannot get out of a Disruptor ulti no matter how hard you try. Like, glimpse into Disruptor ulti, you're just fucking dead.
yeah, and you cannot dodge Glimpse with Spirit because Glimpse is pretty much undodgeable, with a very few exceptions. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was just like inideal. Is that a word? Inideal. It was not ideal. Put it that way.
Yeah,
And
probably safer.
yeah, I think like our lane, like if we had known that it was gonna be Doom Knights our off lane, and like this wasn't for the episode, this would not have been like the lane to play against that. But I think this lane would flourish against something like a weaker off lane, or if you run it in the off lane, if you run it against like a mediocre duo.
I think it still could have been. The fact that like the only time the bounty ever came up, we got kills and we didn't
That's
die
very true.
outside of that. Like, I think that was fine. There are a couple times that you queued that you didn't get your like debuff up on two guys. Like you got three on the Night Stalker and then it ended. But yeah, like that sort of thing. Like if that was kind of ironed out a little bit more. There's one time where I went like a little aggressive when I shouldn't have. That like made me lose a lot more health than I ought to have. But like if we had like a little bit of help right at the start, enough to like get a small advantage, and then like taking that to let me get last hits, so I get my PMS a little faster, then I get bottle. Then I think it would have been good. Like I think the lane was fine. We had all the tools to kind of fight them. We were able to kill a Doom who scorched Earth. I think it would have been good. It's just team was not good. I think if we ran this as like an off lane where we weren't super like needed to get farm, it would have been good as well.
Yeah.
I think it was fine. It's just the game was not good.
Yeah, I mean, like we have said ad nauseum, the game was just a mess overall, and it's hard to like really. It's really hard to assess a lane or like a composition you're trying when like literally everything else goes. I shouldn't say everything else because our Wind Ranger did win mid thanks to the Bounty Hunter, and he was quite good at Wind Ranger. He lands some nice shackles, but certain times it's hard to assess a game or how strong your lane is when like the enemy lane is just the enemy laners are doing so well and they're getting so much out of the map that your team is not. If you compared our off lane to the enemy off lane, like it is night and day, no pun intended, and it was just not great. And I think so. One of the things that I find most frustrating in Dota, but also maybe consistent would be the term, is that a game where people are like flaming each other and being generally negative, it like not only like it prevents you from turning around the game, whereas like this game was very lost, like to be fair, but it really does not help anybody when like the bounty hunter understandably was frustrated because we were getting wrecked, and he just like went off and started flaming, and like it was really like counterproductive and it was distracting, and you got to flame back, so it's just like I don't know, it was a really toxic game, and just like pretty much everything that could have went wrong did go wrong. But again, like you said, like I think the theory was fine, but it was just not an ideal situation.
Yeah, I mean, games like this happen. It was a huge MMR disparity, so something's going to give as far as laning. So that's just kind of what happened. It's kind of unfortunate, but it's how it works
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, we have, you know, we've won games because of that, and now you'll lose games because of that on the other team. That's just the nature of Dota. Everybody always. If I knew more about my logical fallacies, I'd say specifically which one it is. But I mean, it's kind of thing where like when it happens to you, and you lose
Confirmation bias, I think.
confirmation bias, maybe
In this case, maybe.
like so I think the classic one would be like somebody feeding or somebody abandoning is like when that happens to you and you lose MMR for it, you remember that and you go on Reddit and you make your angry post and you're like, oh my god,
Shit. No, not
Valve is
confirmation
so
bias.
broken.
This is so in my head right now. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of thought of confirmation bias too, and then said no, but then you said it, so I was like, oh okay, maybe he's right. Anyway,
No,
whatever it
that's
is,
not
it's
anyway. Yeah, we can go on.
It's just like you perceive things to happen against you more, and you like forget about the times where it happens in your favor. And so this was just one of those games where like a lot of stuff went wrong for our team internally, and the other team was just playing super well. Like they were coordinated, they made lots of really productive rotations, and I mean basically the idea trying to make is that sometimes things work out for you, and that bad situation happens to the enemy team. And other times it's your team, and I mean that's just the reality of a team game. Sometimes you get teammates that are not ideal, and I don't know. It is what it is, as I would say. That's just that's just the reality of the game, right? So I think we're gonna tie this back to the initial idea. I would not call this a theory crafting loss. I'd call this an execution loss on behalf of our teammates, and I definitely messed up a bit. I know I had some inefficient Arctic burns where I only hit like so. Arctic burn does not it refreshes the damage, but it does not stack or the debuff, but it does not stack the debuff. So if you hit one person multiple times, you have diminishing returns. So during the laning phase, when we were against both the Night Stalker and the Doom, I had times where in the fights I could have gotten both of them, but instead I fixated on one person, and that was bad. And then I think my big problem was that once the first night came up, Night Stalker just hunted me, and like I died enough times that I didn't hit level 6 until like minute 16. Like it was just constant fighting that was not working out for me, and I never had mana because I couldn't get like Tranquil, Soul Ring, let alone mana boots. So that was definitely a problem for me. I know. Well, I suppose. Did you have any specific problems on your end, like singular to your hero and your play?
There was one time where I kind of like I ported back to lane after I kind of dove for this kill, trying to make the best of a bad situation, and I got it, and then I died, which was it just kind of happens. Traded myself for a Doom, not the worst thing in the world. And then I go back to lane and I see the Doom, and I'm like, oh, I can just like press E and walk up to him, fight him, and press Q and just kind of fuck with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do that, it's going okay. And then Night Stalker comes up and I die because
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, there's a lot of times in Dota where you're looking at something, you're like, oh yeah, I can 1v1 this guy, and like if not, I'll just walk away. And your information is there's one guy here and then there's me, and then I have no teammates on the map. But you have no idea if that dude has a teammate like 3 seconds behind him that is now going to walk over. So that happened a couple times to me. So just kind of, with a hero like Ember Spirit that you have to play on such a razor's edge, you can't really afford to make miscalculations like, oh, maybe there's a guy there that I didn't know about. Because if that's the case, you're dead.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ember Spirit is one of the like most finesse-based heroes. I think I would say, and it definitely is like Razor's Edge. That's the perfect way to describe it. He's so like you have to play him so much like by the second. Like you have to really quickly assess situations and think like, all right, are there more than 2 units here? Can I bolus? Like once I remember at this point we had already been like mega creeped, but you hit 3 people, you hit bolus when you were in the middle of 3 people just to hit the disruptor, but instead you hit their 2 like allies.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things where like you got to make these assessments and play the odds with bolas, And they got to think like, all right, if I sleight of fist here, are they going to be able to man up on me before my sleight of fist ends? Oh, should I use my shield before I take damage to negate the damage, or should I do it after the damage so that I can do more damage to the enemies? There are just so many things like, oh, should I rim now? Should I try to get the extra CS? And it really is like a hero like Night Stalker that's so super mobile and can lock you down, or a Disruptor. It adds so many extra elements, or like a Blink Doom, for instance, because he did go Blink. It just adds so many complexities to the hero. And there's so many ways to punish an Ember Spirit if you have these like high mobility, high disable heroes like a Doom, Night Stalker, Disruptor. So that was definitely, I think, the core problem. And you didn't even pick the Ember Spirit that early, right? I think you picked it
I
third.
think it was second pick. I mean, it was definitely pretty early. It was followed by a Night Stalker pick. So
No,
I think
Night
it
Stalker was
was.
their last pick.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think it was followed by Doom. Then I remember being sad.
Yeah, Doom or
pick
Disruptor.
after, and Doom makes. I mean, who doesn't Doom make sad?
Yeah.
Me when I
God.
pick him, but
I was gonna say, yeah, if he's on your team, he doesn't make you sad. That hero, God, I cannot wait for him to get freaking nerfed next patch.
I'm so glad that like Vlad's Alpha Wolf is like the build now because I love right click Doom and like you still build caster Doom items, but if you have Alpha Wolf and Vlad's, you like right click for some real numbers. It's nice.
I guess I don't know. I hate that hero so much. I've just like blocked him out of my like. He's not even in like my peripheral Dota vision.
Just when I was like, before ranked matchmaking and all the woes that came with it, just like the joys of running like phase drums radiance out Doom were so real. Like you just like press W, have radiance, and just walk at someone and they just fucking die and you're big and tanky and it's just you feel like Satan himself. It's great.
Yeah. So I think about Doom in our lane. I think one of the key problems we had against Doom was that we did incremental damage, and so he would just have his W running, and he would heal so much through it. Whereas
Stuns, it's not like we could start off on him before he presses W. It's like the second we're interested in his life total, it's going up.
yeah, and that really hurt. And it let him
And the same with Night
run away
Stalker.
and also keep fighting.
You can't like slowly harass him out of the lane because he slowly regens faster than any fucking hero in the game.
Yeah, it's like how Ogre Magi used to be when he had like 3 health regen per second.
Yeah.
Right, he has like 19 armor at level 2, so that adds another level of tankiness. But it was definitely just like this lane did not succeed against these like super tanky, super high regen heroes. I also misskilled. I was really frustrated because during a fight I misskilled and had 3 points in my Q at level 5, whereas I meant to have 2-2-1, and that was. It's not like it was a game-losing mistake or anything, but I probably missed out on a kill or two because of it. And that's just one of those things where like I was like in the middle of a fight and I was panicking, and I shouldn't say panicking. It's just Dota, but I misclicked or something, and it's those like little things that accumulate, and all those little mistakes really like set you back in the long run. So it's just less than ideal, I think. And I think that this one we'll call a gimme. I know last time we played this, we won in like 20 minutes. So it was bound to happen eventually that we were going to have one of these like brutal like 30-minute, sub 30-minute losses.
She was on the other foot.
Yeah. And at least for posterity's sake, we have the VOD. So if you guys want to live vicariously through us, if you're like supreme masochist like we suspect Roland is, you can enjoy with us. Or, I mean, you can enjoy singularly because it was not fun for us. The game on our YouTube channel .ptv1, and yeah, I mean, do you have any closing thoughts for the game? I think I've pretty much summarized my my suffering, and now I feel like I deserve a win, so I feel like I should be queuing.
Only remembering certain outcomes and not remembering other ones that you didn't want to focus on is called lopsided impact on memory.
Lopsided impact on memory. Gotcha.
There's not really a like clean, sexy term for that, which I totally thought there was, but this is what I can find.
No, lopsided is not generally a term I associate with being clean or sexy.
Yeah, well,
but
that's what we're working with.
I mean, if it's accurate, I suppose that's a little more accurate or more appropriate. But yeah, it definitely is. That happens all the time, right? Like something abandons on your team, and it's so frustrating. You're like, oh boy, we could have won, but it was just like free MMR for the other team. But then you forget about like all the times that happens to the enemy team, and you just get free MMR. Or like the other day, I forget if you were in the party. I think it was me, Fafnir, and our friend Flub. We were playing, and like it was like a 60-minute game, and we were clearly losing. And like right as we got mega creeped, we like the servers all died. And it was just like, all right, cool. I didn't lose
No,
MMR.
I was not in that game.
Yeah, I think it was me, Flub, and Fafnir. And boy, that's like that made
Feel
me into
so
a
sorry
God-fearing
for
man.
them. Feel good for you.
I did not feel sorry for them. I'm
Did they pick Doom? Is that
my-
why you lost?
yeah. I don't even know what I was playing that game. I was playing Spectre actually. That's who I was.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And I was like left alone to safe lane against like something, and it was just not great. But I made the best of it. But then like our other cores just cannot compare, and then they had like a bunch of cores, and we just like lost all the other lanes super hard, and it was rough. It was not the ideal Spectre game, even though it went long. Like I remember they had something to just kill all my illusions. So I'm like, gosh, that was not the game. They had a really good invoker. That's what it was. They had an invoker that was crazy. Like he snowballed out of mid, and he just like killed everybody for like 20 minutes straight, and probably longer than that, actually. It was wild. But yeah, so I mean, again, I suppose that this game is like my comeuppance for having not lost MMR in that game. So I mean, I guess there's that. Not to get off on some crazy tangent again. But yeah, so I guess I'll just do the plugs now. We, as I've said, you can go to our YouTube channel, .ptv1, and that is where you can find the VOD from tonight. You can find all kinds of stuff, .p82l games. You can find my replay review series, other things. We have some live podcasts now, not this one, but other ones, I assure you. And you can find, on that note, our Twitch, where we stream very regularly. I know I stream a lot. Roland streams a lot. Occasionally, we have other people streaming, and I'm sure as the stream progresses, more people will be like, "Yeah, yo, let me in on that," because it is a really good time. That is Defense of the Patients, or no, it's .ptv. Twitch is .ptv. On Twitter, you can find me. I am at Ursinity. I will answer all of your questions. Whisper me your sweet nothings. Do what you will. Proud. What are you on Twitter?
Oh, I am at Proud Dota.
All right.
It's just the word proud and the word Dota.
Yep.
And there's no spaces or anything. It's great. It's great.
Nice and simple.
It's awesome.
And then you can also find the .ptv Twitch at Twitter at .p_show. All these T names for websites are.
Yeah, can I get into how shit it is that I'm typing into my browser and I'm like TW, okay, yeah, TWI, yeah, TWIT, and then I have to do another T. Like I shouldn't need 5 letters. Come on.
Yeah,
Jesus.
this is.
It's awful. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's just the worst thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like. A lot of times something happens, or like I see a video. Like today, I saw a 360-degree YouTube video. It was a K-pop music video. God bless. And I feel like I see those things, and I'm like, yo, I live in the future. And then I have some annoying thing like that, and I'm like, yo, I live in the past, and this is not. I do not need this in my life. I do not need to type 5 whole letters into my Google Chrome bar.
It's horseshit. I'm gonna be honest. It's awful.
Gosh, life is so hard.
I'm gonna have to cut one of them out of my usage history.
Yeah. Are there any other? You can contact us at defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. The subreddit r/defenseofthepatients where everything gets posted. Talk to us. I'm on the subreddit all the time, and I think that about covers it. I may have missed something, but that's it is what it is. Such is life. Some other phrase I use incessantly.
So
yeah.
forgot to tell them how pretty I am.
You are very pretty. I can attest to that. I
Thank
can
you.
confirm prettiness. 5,000 MMR in.
I'm a cute boy.
Yeah, sure. All right. All right. So, all said and done, this has been Theory Crafting Thursday. Just remember, it's our theory, and it's probably your fault, or in this case, our teammates' fault.